Good morning, everybody. All right, let's get going. We have so much to do today. So much to say, so many things, so many people, so many places, so little time. So let's get cracking straight away. Whatever you're up to, I hope you're ready to start your Wednesday, the 6th of August. Yeah, the year marches on, and really, we'll have to ask our guest if he agrees with this or not. But I reckon always that if you get to August and you haven't started implementing a plan, you know, a major plan, something that you wanted to do from the start of 2025, you haven't got that moving by August, it's just never going to happen. What do you think, Gavin Sharples?
Yeah, I think everybody's got a plan. It normally starts about January the 5th, the 6th.
Yeah.
And then they get up and they eat, they drink water and they mow the lawn and eat the grass, roots, berries. And that lasts for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And then as soon as they walk into the gym and it's full there, it normally ends. But they always say to themselves, there's still next year. There's always next year.
No. I mean, this is not you being mean. I've seen it happen. Those first 3 weeks, let's say, of the year, up to just before the end of January, place is packed, right? You cannot find anything you need to do. And by the way, people also, they eat right, as you said, so they buy all the right groceries. You see them in the fruit and veggie section. Yeah, middle of the year, chips, sweets, Cokes, you know.
I think I remember I used to be in the gym world for a long time, and the guys used to sell contracts knowing full down that all they got to do is that bottleneck in January, February, and March. Once that bottleneck is gone, then the gym will exit. But they pay for the year, so every month.
I know.
And for some people in their mind, they're sitting there going, "Well,
so
I've got a gym contract, so I'm okay."
Apparently, it's only 30 to 40% of people who go to the place they're paying to go to every month.
That's it. Because remember, in the back of our mind, we placate ourselves by going, at least I've got a gym contract. People say, you go to gym and your brain goes, well, I've taken the effort. I've got a gym contract. I've got a thing. So you almost like you feel, well, I've made an effort. I mean, I'll get around to it. But that card, as soon as you flash that card, that's what gives you.
It means you're trying.
I'm trying. Financially, I'm trying.
So apparently there's this thing that they've just done in America now where 12 states, there are 50 states, 12 of them have decided they're going to stop poor people who are on food stamps. It's like I suppose it's a nutrition program that they've got in America, where if you're poor, they will give you a rebate on your groceries, effectively. Okay, it's like it's kind of like we give people a rebate on work in South Africa, because if you can't get a job, you're unemployed, or you have dependents and you live in a place where there aren't any jobs, then the rest of the country must help you. You know, we call it social welfare.
Can anybody apply for that?
Sure, but it's only 300 or 400 rand if you do get it, and so it's not going to be enough to make you last a month.
So I can't go to Woolies.
No, but the people in America who are on these food programs, so this is like a mother can go shopping, and if she's got this card, which is issued by the Department of Health or something in America, then she will get like 50% off her bill. That means the other taxpayers will fund her shopping.
Someone's going to pay.
Yeah, there's always someone who pays. That's the problem, as Margaret Thatcher used to say, the problem with socialism is you always run out of other people's money, right?
Yeah.
But the funny thing is these 12 states have got together now because people in America are sick to death of being ripped off by people who are on the take, scavengers, okay? And when they're asked what kind of things they're buying, and you can see it on their bill because all of this gets reported back to the U.S. food program, right? So if you're a mum who goes and shops for your 4 kids and you're buying fruit, veggies, meat, bread, basic essentials, milk, like nutritious stuff that you have to eat.
Yeah.
Then, you'd be spending those food stamps properly. The food program would be working the way that it's meant to work to make sure that...
buying?
Guess. Do you want to guess?
Alcohol.
Oh, first thing, you can't buy alcohol with it. At least I think. First thing at the top of every list is sugary drinks.
Oh, okay.
Then chips and sweets, what Americans call candy.
Yeah.
Okay, makes up the next category.
To get that sweet... Yeah. That hit, you know what I mean?
Chocolates.
Yeah. Feel good food.
Yeah, and food that is completely non-nutritious. So what these 12 states have done in the last couple of days is they've got together under Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again. They got together and they've said, we're not going to allow people to buy these items. In other words, you won't get any reduced tax benefits. You won't get any, your card won't work if you're purchasing fast food or unhealthy food or sugary food or any of that stuff that clearly these people are buying. So these are already, and there are YouTube or TikTok influencers, apparently, who make videos about all the shit they buy on their benefits card.
Oh, so it's become a thing.
It's become a thing. They actually, like, they are blatant about it. They are open about that. I bought all these sweets and chocolates and fizzy drinks with my benefit card. And, you know, like, I feel when I hear a story like that, I feel like the only people who are being ripped off here, because clearly the fat losers who are buying this stuff are getting what they want. Clearly the American food program people who think they're doing the right thing for poor people are getting what they want. They get to feel good. We're helping the poor who can't afford this food. The only people who are being ripped off seem to me to be the taxpayers who are funding this bullshit scheme, right?
But that's a very clever corporate way of selling your sugary products. I mean, if I'm a massive corporate and sell sugar and that type of stuff, and I want to move a whole bunch of stuff, all I do is I can get this food program because I know what they're going to do. People are going to. So I mean, the corporates are winning,
but eventually
the corporates are sitting there flipping, raping in the money because
eventually we do have to get to the point where we start saying what is probably an uncomfortable and unpleasant thing for most people to own up to. Why are some? I'm not going to say all. Why are some people eternally poor? Why are some people always going to be poor, no matter how much you give them? You know, there's a guy I know. I had this conversation over the weekend, and tell me what you make of this. There's a guy I know. He has a tremendously well-paying job, like in the millions. Okay, he gets paid upwards, and I'm not going to remember exactly the amount, but it's upwards of 10 million rand a year. Works at a major financial institution.
I'll live on that. Cut back a few things. I'll make.
I mean, I could live on, a tenth of that, and I'd be very, very comfortable. But let's just say it's 10 million for the sake of an argument. Okay, he owns 3 very, very expensive cars, none of which are paid off, which he has to pay an exorbitant amount a month to pay off. Okay, and he's barely making those payments. He lives in a house that costs him, I think his repayments on his bond are something like 150,000 rand a month. So again, he's living well beyond even his high salary means. And he gets back 0 in terms of actual saved money, leftover money at the end of the month. This is a person who is deserving to be perpetually poor. This person has no idea of how to manage money. They apparently, according to this person I spoke to who works with them, they go out every weekend and spend in excess of 80,000 rand a weekend on meals and drinks and God knows what else. 80,000 rand a weekend. Now, that guy deserves to be poor. And you may think, well, he's on a salary of, over 1 million a month. That's what he's earning. Surely he'd be all right. But he isn't, because he owes more than he has. And there's no amount of money you can give a person like that, right? A stupid person like that, and whichever institution has hired him and they've got him in that position, they need to go through their numbers and look at their people and decide who they've got to get rid of. And he should be right at the top of the list. But these are people who deserve to be poor. And it's not about how much you have or how much you get. It's about what you do with what you've got. This guy clearly is not capable of managing money.
Well, 2 things. You're absolutely correct, and it's relative, though. This guy might earn his 10 bar, whatever, a year, whatever. But isn't that just like people? If you get a job and you're earning 50,000 bucks a month, your expenses will come up to meet your 50,000 or maybe even more, because an overdraft, say, if you're earning 5,000, we generally do that. I mean, you go buy yourself a motor car, you walk in, you know your budget is X amount, you've done the maths, but you walk in and the salesman says, yeah, but if you spend just an extra 400 more on this or 500 more on that. So what you do is, that's why they say don't give people increases in companies, because as soon as that increase comes in, you've already spent it, or you will make a plan to go up because now you think you can afford it. And the problem is, if you want to go way back, is instead of teaching money and how to deal with it in schools, we're learning basically how to label a fern or the internal structure of a mitochondria. So
I think that stuff's important.
To whom? By the way, I've just got to my 6th decade now, and I've never had to pull out my fern diagrams.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you didn't have those mitochondria working away in every cell in your body, producing adenosine triphosphate to make the energy that you need to live every morning, you wouldn't get up. You wouldn't get up and join us today, Gavin Sharples.
You just confirmed the nerd in you, bud. You a phosphate, what?
Adenosine triphosphate, ATP. It's the source of all of our energy.
But here's the thing.
Breaks up carbon chains.
But here's the thing. Knowing that, what benefit? Yes, if I'm a
doctor,
of course,
it's benefit.
But I'm talking now about.
We were just talking about nutrition.
Let's just talk finances. Can you imagine if there was a course saying, this is money, this is how it works. Imagine having that as a subject.
I don't understand why we don't. First thing, once kids are able to get pocket money and understand the value of money, teach them that, teach them about tax, because what really should happen is that the school teacher, when they get there with their lunch money, and let's say you get 5 to 10, I don't know what it is that kids get now, probably 100 Rand. Okay, but let's say you get 10 Rand from your parents for lunch money that day because they didn't pack you a lunch box. Then you as you get to school, the teacher in the economics class takes half your money right there and then and goes, oh, no, this is tax. So you learn about that straight away. Otherwise, it hits you like a ton of bricks later on. When you start your first working role in society, you got a job and it's only paying you a little bit, and you're like, where the fuck did the other half that they promised me go? And they go, oh, that went to the government, that went to tax. You should learn that.
My daughter got her first job. She expected to get X amount.
So
she got to pay. From the outside, I've been looking at it. It was like actually quite funny that
of course.
She said, what's this big amount? Where's it go? I said, well, it goes to the government. She said, what do they do with it? I said, well, let's not have that conversation with you. But she was so shocked that they would take such a huge amount from her. First job. She was shocked that amount could actually come off.
We all are. I'm still perpetually shocked by it. And if you were getting something for it, even if it was something shit like insurance.
Yeah.
No one wants to buy insurance.
Yeah.
And I see they're advertising everywhere, right? Like the biggest advertisers in South Africa at the moment are insurance companies,
short term,
and gambling.
Oh, gambling, yeah, okay, that's
right. But
that's the new thing.
These gaming sites where you go on and you play these games and you win or you lose, and those are the two groups that are spending the most money in South Africa.
I think that's becoming the biggest spend now. The biggest spend now in people is gambling, and it
makes me wish for the days of tobacco advertising, which is at least good.
Yeah.
Like when you see.
You mean the adverts were good?
You see like an ad, it's like people screaming and. Like, yes, Bina Zonke. And you're like, what a fucking stupid shit ad.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a terrible ad, right?
Yeah.
And then you think back to those amazing tobacco ads they used to make for cigarettes where it was like, on a beach, you got these beautiful women running with their titties jumping up and down, and you've got music playing that they've written
passport to international pleasure.
Exactly. Come alive with flavor. Kind of shit. They'd have great voiceovers.
And the Camel Man. Remember the Camel Man? He was this He-Man who took on the jungle.
Yeah.
Now they
it's
got
rubbish.
Yeah. So gambling is a big thing. Unfortunately, that is going to be the problem. Is with you hitting people who are looking for dopamine hits. They're looking for some happiness. They're looking for shortcuts. They're looking for all that stuff. And now the corporates and that type of thing go, oh, by the way, you can win and you can win. So apart from gambling used to be in this dark place where you'd go to and they shut you in and you.
It's embarrassing.
Now you can literally sit on your phone and lose your salary.
Mm-hmm. Well, the part they don't already take before you even get in the bank.
No, the rest. They want the rest.
Chris says, when I started work, I trained that if I lost my job, 70 Rand a week, I could only find a job for 90% of that wage I would manage. So I've always saved 10% of what I've earned. I've now got properties. Smart. In high school, I used to get pocket money and buy Magic the Gathering cards and resell them for a higher rate. Money 101, that was hustling.
There's my entrepreneur there. Love
Coffee
those
fiend.
guys. Love those guys.
Bitcoin But says, in primary school, we had a drive to collect money and sell marshmallows. I doubled the price of the marshmallows and went to the old age home. I made a decent amount for a kid.
It's cool.
Ripping off the old people. Yeah, that's very good.
It's good because they got no teeth, so marshmallows will work.
Sure. Your body and your mind will not develop properly if all you eat is generic Oreo knockoffs and cheap sugar drinks. That's Congo Chris. Yeah, that's true, which is why I think these 12... In fact, it's embarrassing not for the 12 states that have decided to be so mean and take away people's benefits to buy shit food and shit drinks. It's ridiculous that there are other states, the majority of them, who are not stopping that stuff. You know, those states should be hauled across the carpet and asked, why is it that you think that this group of grown adults need to subsidize this group of grown-up adults buying horrible, bad food? That's what they should be asking. All right, let me give a proper introduction to you quickly, because it's been a while since you've been on the show, but it's always good to have Gavin here. Gavin Sharples, one of South Africa's most in-demand keynote speakers. He's an author. He's been busy for 24 years around the country doing 4,900 keynotes. He's been in 20 other countries, cumulative audience of hundreds of thousands of people. And before his speaking career, he was a detective sergeant in the South African Police Service, and he described those years as a real crash course in human nature, interacting with individuals from all walks of life. So let's talk about this thing that you're doing now, where you're talking to people about ostriches.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an ostrich trainer.
Nonetheless, I have some vague recollection that when people talk about ostriches and their heads being put in the sand, this is not a behavior that anyone's actually witnessed an ostrich doing, but apparently ostriches, when things get too chaotic or too crazy, they just hide from the truth. They stick their heads in the sand, supposedly, metaphorically, but it could be likened to humans sticking their heads up their asses.
So yes, ostriches don't stick their heads in the ground, but what they do is they do keep their heads down.
Right.
And the analogy that I use as people is we keep our heads down. We don't want to know the truth. We don't want to have the tough conversations. We scout around things. We are politically correct. And because our heads are down, what is showing, and that's normally where we get kicked. And there's some people with their heads down, but you can say still talking, so you know what end they're talking out of. But unfortunately, if their heads are down, they can't see what's happening and they can't see what's coming. So all I try and do is I go and speak. So the metaphor is heads up, man. And that's why your show as well. I mean, all you do is you read the headlines, you comment on it, and letting people know this is what is happening today in your country. Letting them know. And the next thing is then, so what do we do about it? So the whole concept of the ostrich is heads up. And I've got a whole bunch of little things that I send out all the time going, heads up, did you know this? And heads up, did you know this? Because we keep, and you know, part of the keeping our heads down is what it makes sense because you're so busy.
Sure.
I mean, people wake up at traffic, they fight traffic, they fight stuff, they're doing their jobs, and all of a sudden they got this noise in the side here, and they're so busy living their lives, and all of a sudden something happens, and they go, when did that happen? So all we're trying to say, and your show is saying, this is what is happening, be aware of it, because when your head's up and you know what's happening, you can at least take some action.
Sure, I get that, and I think you're exactly right. Most people don't want to they don't want to rock the boat, they don't want to cause trouble.
Too busy living their lives.
And frankly, you keep your head down, stay out of trouble, is not bad advice. Yeah. And it's saved many people who are smarter than me. Just shut your mouth and get on with it and fit in and make it work.
And if it is working, but there is a time when you do have to stick your neck out. So when you see somebody being, school analogies, seeing somebody being bullied, seeing somebody in the office being bullied, seeing sexual harassment happening in front of your face, yes, don't put your head down, because then you have the whole Weinstein thing where everybody knew, they kept their heads down, and all of a sudden it explodes. And then what did you do? Okay,
so when do people have to stand up for themselves? When do they have to start paying attention? Where do they have to put their heads up? And do you think in this country it doesn't take us an extraordinarily long time to get to that point?
Yes, it does. And listen, there's another side of it. We'll even go there. A lot of people don't want to put their heads up or their hands up. They don't want to do it because, let's face it, if they point out what somebody's doing wrong, they become the whistleblower. Wow. And our country has a fantastically bad history when it comes to actual whistleblower. So a lot of people don't want to. However, when it's you and your family or your business or something, you need to step forward. More importantly, I'm not even telling people to step forward and take any risk. I'm saying to them, lift your head and be aware of what is actually happening.
Right.
So I don't know how old you are. I know that I was
fucking old.
I was okay. I was raised in the good old days when the country back in the apartheid era was basically controlled by the National Party government. Now, growing up in South Africa as a young kid, we didn't even realize that this whole thing was happening. We woke up every morning, went to school, came home, played in the streets until the lights came on and went home. In the background, we didn't know that there was this whole thing happening and the government was controlling the narrative.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't even allow television in South Africa until, 77?
Yep.
And then they built it as a bunker and it was a mouthpiece for the government. Funny how that has just kept going. Anyway, so it was a mouthpiece for the government, okay? So we were living our lives not knowing. And a couple of newspapers were trying to tell people this is what's happening in our country. And they were banned and advertisers were stopped. And so they controlled that narrative. But however, because it opened up, a lot of international reporters and we started finding out what is happening in our own country. And when we started realizing, damn, this is actually happening. Remember that vote that we had? Was it in the 90s?
Referendum.
The referendum, yes or no?
1992.
That one. So because basically we looked at it and said, no, this is not right. And I think about 67 or 70% of white South Africans looked at it because now we had the knowledge. Somebody said, lift your head, see what's happening. We said, overwhelmingly, absolutely, we've got to stop this. We've got to start going forward. And we did. I believe that the same thing is happening now in this country where we're getting South Africans who the narrative is being controlled by people and we're putting our heads down. And I'm trying to say to people, lift your head and see what's happening. And here's the thing. I say to you, and by the way, if everyone's ostriches, we've got black ostriches, we've got white ostriches, we've got Indian ostriches, and it just sounds so much. People don't get offended when you say black ostriches as opposed to black people or white ostriches, white people. So I say, I want to look at all the ostriches in our country and say, lift your head and see how far we've come. I know you're getting the negative stuff every second day, but if you actually have a look at how far this country has come and the position we're in and how we are actually functioning every single day, the things we've achieved in the last 30 years, it's absolutely mind-boggling, but nobody talks about it. Everyone talks about the negative, what's not working.
But also we tend to have a very short-term view of everything, right? I mean, this is one of the reasons I love history and I love studying history, and it teaches you more about people than anything else you learn at school. But if you have a system where your glass window is broken and you're seeing through a broken window, it hasn't fallen out, but it's broken.
Yeah.
So you only get half the picture. Most people are only looking through one or two of those broken pieces. In other words, they're looking at the immediate situation they're in. They're looking back a week maybe, and they're looking forward a week maybe. That's it.
And they've got glasses on, tinted glasses.
Yeah.
They see it
maybe
their way.
Maybe those are broken too.
They see it their way. Yeah, okay.
But you're only seeing a small fraction of the picture, right? Because you can't actually get a full context for anything, and everything is immediate, and so you don't have any explanation for kind of long-term effects. And I think that for many people, that's the way they live day to day. They pay attention maybe to stuff that happened yesterday, maybe to stuff that's going to happen tomorrow, but mostly the stuff that they're actually just dealing with today. So, oh my God, I'm hungry. Oh my God, I'm tired. I'm feeling sick. Yep. It's like what's happening right now. There's no forward planning and there's no kind of understanding of the past.
That's why they buy sweets.
Probably.
That's why they'll take that grocery amount.
That's why they're going to stop. And I certainly think the rest of us should stop paying for it. But yeah.
But then the thing is, if they don't, you're between a rock and a hard place. If they don't give the money, they're an uncaring state. If they give the money and the people aren't spending the money on the right thing, then they're not caring and they're perpetuating that. So the guys sit back and go, well, we can give it. Hold on. It's like you going past a beggar in the street and you give him $100 now, or $50, whatever it is. You give him the money. Mm-hmm. Once you've given that money, it's no longer your money.
Yeah, you can't decide how you should
You can't
spend
say to that guy, now go buy vegetables. Because the guy's looking at you and go, buddy, I'm down, I'm out, I'm unhappy.
You're right.
And I can go buy that Pepsi over there.
You are right.
And I can go that thing and you know what? I will make it until tomorrow.
And that is why charity is so stupid. No, you've just made the argument for me. I didn't have to make this argument.
Let's not be controversial.
No.
Charity is stupid.
You can give, sure, you can give as much money as you like to. And by the way, I always think it's a good idea that charity starts at home. It's an old adage, just like your ostrich one. You have to start with the people you actually are responsible for, that are living closest to you. So start with your family.
Gareth, if you did that, you understand there'd be no problem in the world.
Yeah, but
I'm
people
sorry,
don't.
I've written a book called The Real Man, How to Be. The whole concept was absent fathers is the biggest problem facing the world today.
Agreed.
Beyond doubt.
Agreed.
If you look at, we give it such a political correct name, gender-based violence, we call it.
Yeah, GBV.
Yeah, which basically means men are raping, pillaging, and murdering women. That's basically, we should actually call it what
gangs
it is.
of wanton, destructive men just roaming the countryside, just destroying and taking advantage of women.
That's exactly it. So we put a nice little spin on it. We call it gender-based violence because it sounds so. At the end of the day, the problem we're facing in the world today is that absent fathers. So the concept is that if people have got no role models, if they've got nobody to look up to, if they've got nobody controlling their behavior, where do they find that from? Where are they going to get that? So the concept of getting fathers more involved in their families and sticking around, that's the big thing. Get them sticking around.
Yeah, this gender-based violence thing is a uniquely South African problem in that our rates are so extraordinarily high, right? Yeah. I mean, it's happening all over the world, and you're not wrong. But these young men who are committing these crimes are almost exclusively raised, and it's not the mother's fault, but by single mothers. In other words, they don't have fathers in their lives.
Yep.
So there's only so much a mum can do to engender their sons with the right idea of how to behave towards women.
If you look at
this
the stats,
is a very sad reality. No one wants to talk about this.
If you want to look at the stats, a child, I'm going to get it wrong now because I don't have all the documents in front of me, but if a woman raises a son, he stands as much chance of going to prison as if he was raised with no parents at all.
Wow. Now
think about that.
Okay, so
she's doing her best.
Sure, she's doing her best. How do you respond to someone who hears that this morning and goes, "Oh, so what are you saying? Like single mums can't do it, and they have no chance of raising a good child?"
No, not at all. But they're doing the best they can in a world that doesn't help them at all.
Yeah.
And you will find that, so the message there is, keep doing what, if it wasn't for women doing that, imagine what the mess of the world would be. At least we got 47% of women actually doing that. And then you got child-headed households. And then you got fathers that were helicopter parents.
So where are all these fucking men?
That's the thing. Now,
where are they? What are they doing? Are they hiding in the bush?
No, my thinking was, obviously being an ex-cop, they gave me all of the cases that were really, horrible. So I used to handle all of the, I don't know why my commander would give them to me. Maybe I was the only guy whose shoe size was equal to his IQ, but they gave me that stuff. And I have been following that from the beginning and trying to find out what is the story. And it's men. And the problem was, I thought that if I, as a good man, raised my kids well, if I raised my girls to say, you don't accept this, and if I raised my boy to say, you never raise your hands to a woman, I was doing enough. The problem is, it's not enough. Because good men now need to step out and become role models. Good men need to do things because there's not enough real. Because if you're a good man, most good real men are living their lives. They're living their lives and they don't stop and think about what am I doing. But we need men to go into schools. We need men to do talks. We need men to actually help and guide other people because that basically is what's missing in the society right now.
I find that this word community tends to mask a lot of social ill. When people say, well, I was raised by the community, or, Hillary Clinton wrote that book, It Takes a Village. Yeah. And this is it. What it does is it spreads accountability beyond just the parents and sometimes just the single mom, for example. It says, well, no, the whole community is there to raise a child. That this idea of an amorphous, unshaped, not exactly well-defined community is suddenly responsible for everything. They're responsible for the rules, they're responsible for role modeling, they're responsible for taxes, they're responsible for raising people's children. It's a disambiguation in a way that makes nobody accountable. I think this is a very dangerous thing. We keep hearing it. You hear people, I represent this community. I mean, people aren't walking around with a signed petition with 20,000 signatures on going, I represent this community. They're just deciding. And this word gets abused left, right, and center. Whenever anyone says, the community. I go, huh? What do you mean? And they struggle to define it. You ask them and they can't really come up with a good definition. Like the South African farming community. There isn't one meeting that all the farmers go to every year. And then they all sit there and go, right, well, we're going to elect that oak as the president of our farming community.
Actually, there is that.
I mean, they have smaller organizations.
There's the Young Farmers Association of South Africa.
Yeah, but these are small organizations.
No, what they do is in a region
to be the whole farming community.
Well, they've especially in that specific one, they do have a 70 to 80% attendance of those meetings because I mean the farming community do stick together.
Yeah, but then you get oaks like
reasons.
Agri SA who claim to be representatives.
Well, they
of the
represent
farming
their
community.
people within that group,
right?
And they represent a whole lot of them.
But then, Gavin, let's be clear about definitions because people seem to want to blur these lines because they don't want accountability.
I think your point is that the funny thing in our country, and this I know will sound strange, this country is very black and white. I hope you noticed that. I don't know. It's like let's take women and let's give them jobs and freedom, and all of a sudden we don't just shift it like this. No, it must be fully like this. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
It's just, in other words, we go to the extreme in everything we do. So when we talk about community, everybody looks at community, and as you've just said, community means everybody. No. When we say that a village raises a child, it means that you as the mother and the father are doing 99% of it. However, when that kid goes across the road, the community will look out for him.
Yeah.
There's a parent or you can bounce something off another father or you.
Yeah,
so in other words,
if your kid is running around and it's like kicking other people's dogs and it's stealing the stop signs, then someone else in that neighborhood is going to go up to the kid and grab it by the ear and give it a spank.
That's it, and take you to your father and hold you accountable. That's what community. It's the same thing as school. A lot of people think, well, what I'm going to do, I can't handle my kids, so what I'm going to do, I'll take them to school.
And I'll
hand them over to the teacher.
And I'll put them in Ritalin.
Yes. And no, wait, we'll get to the Ritalin because then you said, oh, by the way, we take our kids that we can't control and we give them to teachers. And let's face it, teachers are people that just have never left school. I mean, if you think about it, they went to school.
You get good ones.
They went to school and they learned, and then they went to school to learn how to teach school, and then they went back to school.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
All right. So these ones, and yes, I mean, that's why we remember going to school. How many great teachers did you have?
No, you have one.
You can remember them.
No,
you actually give them the name, right?
No, most of them are losers.
So basically, they go in there. Now, the kid's sitting in a room facing the front, and all of a sudden they turn around and go, and they call you and they say, I think your son's got,
ADHD.
I think it's got ADD or something. I think you better take him to somebody. And then they take that kid to a psychiatrist. Now, by the way, the psychiatrist, ADD, what's it? It's ADD and ADHD. Mm-hmm. ADD is attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. But that's not what it's about. Let me tell you what I call it. ADD is an absent daddy disorder.
Ooh.
Okay? Which means that all kids need attention, and sometimes kids needs more attention than others. However, now we whip them off to a psychiatrist, ADHD. That's a doctor's hectic diary syndrome. Now, these doctors are sitting there. They are so overwhelmed by the amount of kids coming in that they don't do a proper diagnosis because ADD is a real thing. It is a real thing, but it affects like 0.001% of people, and the drugs like Ritalin can sort out that chemical imbalance in their brains. But what do? We just want a quick result, so we put our kids on all these drugs. I was sitting in a meeting with a drug company that was launching a new drug called Strattera. And he said, no, we're going to go around and speak to psychiatrists. And I was listening to the guy, and he said, well, this is what we want to do. You'll give your talk, be the MC. And it was a huge deal. Yeah. It was like 7 or 8 different stops. Dinner with psychiatrists every night. It was like therapy on the move.
Must have hated that.
Because they were some seriously interesting people. The concept they spoke to me about this. And eventually the guy looked at me and says, what do you think? And I looked at him and I said, well, I'm terribly sorry. I don't think I can take this contract because I don't want to be party to drugging our children. I did the ADD. I did the doctor's sector. And the PCOs and everyone in the meeting, and your lover, everyone just looked. And they looked at the client as if to say sorry. And fortunately that day, the guy who headed up that department was actually plugged in. And he said to me, you know, my daughter does suffer from ADD. She says, the reason why Ritalin has got such a bad name is because of what you've just said. He said, you are my guy on one proviso. Every stop we go around, this whole thing you did about ADHD, the whole thing and the proper diagnosis, you must say it out loud to every psychiatrist that we come into, because I don't want my drug to get the bad rap that the other one did. And I went around and I did 7 or 8 different things. It's basically the community, and the school is part of that community, but they don't take responsibility for your kids and your jobs.
Listen, this is the whole point I'm getting to, is that this is another way for people to avoid personal responsibility. They want to hand it on to anyone else. Oh no, it's the government's responsibility to feed me. It's the community's responsibility to raise my child. It is Gavin and Gareth and James and Flex's problem to do whatever it is we don't want to do anymore. We're just going to hand on responsibilities. And this is what people do. And I've just looked around and I've thought, now I do assessments of character based on a number of things that I never used to do. I look at someone and I go, is this the kind of person who is productive and value additive? And is this somebody who I could trust to do something? If I said to you, just look after this, I'll be back in a second, and I leave it with you, are you that kind of person? If you are, then we can carry on the conversation. If you're not, I know I'm not going to have the time to fix all your fuck-ups. So it's going to take us a lot longer to get to know each other, and I'm probably not going to enjoy it as much as I would if someone who I could say, I'm just going to leave this with you. Right?
Absolutely. Full circle we've come, because if dads stayed at home and looked after their own kids, if you have a child, you not only look after your child, you only have that child when you can support them. And if you can't, if you stay in the home and you look after your own kids, you would need charity. You wouldn't need all these things.
You're so unreasonable. What about just, having sex and making children and then disappearing?
And how's that working for you? Dr. Phil says that. And how's that working for you? When they're interviewing people, especially in the States now, when they're interviewing men and they go, so how many kids do you have? And he goes, 7. And how many wives? He goes, 6. And you go, okay, so you've just had 7 kids from 6 different women. And where are they? I don't know. And then we're sitting here and we're wondering why things are not working. I'm telling you, men must step up and you must look after your own kids. What's that? Mind your own business. Remember that thing? Mind your own business. Look after what is yours. Yeah. Whenever I see people battling, I look at them and say, where's your fault? When I see these young girls walking out now, I sound like an old top here.
You do.
But when you see these women walking around, everything's showing, and I just look at them and I go, where's your father? Like, where is your... My daughters would come downstairs and they want to go to a party or a function. I go put some clothes on. Oh, but Dad, you put clothes on. And, of course, you become the bad oak. But it doesn't matter. I mean, what's that saying? If your kids haven't actually said to you at some stage in your life, I hate you, then you haven't been a good parent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think also a lot of parents want to be friends with their kids.
Oh, I love that. People need to be, my daughter's my best friend. Buddy, get a life. Your daughter doesn't need a friend. She needs a parent.
No. People think me and my daughter are sisters.
Yes, they mix us up all the time.
That's not a good thing.
My order delay is working so well for me.
Chris Smith says, why don't you assess the teachers and psychologists? Okay, well, it's not our job to do that, and I'm not avoiding responsibility. But I do think that those sorts of jobs appeal to certain kinds of people.
Not anymore.
No. I'm not saying every time.
Not anymore.
We've got Dr. Hanan, who's on here every week with us, and he's terrific. And I mean, if I were a kid or an adult and I had any difficulty figuring out how the world works or how I need to figure out my own head, I'd go to him and I'd be better. I know that for a fact. But he is not the standard example. Usually you get someone who, at university, they decide, well, I like working with people, is usually what they say. And then they throw you into a degree course like psychology or whatever. That's what used to happen. And teaching, as you just pointed out, so often is just the default setting for people who enjoyed school or liked the security that school provided and never wanted to move on from that.
That's it. But listen, teaching at
there are
one
exceptions
stage,
to everything.
Teaching used to be a calling. It used to be, I want to go in and I want to be a role model for kids.
There still are teachers.
Being a cop, you needed to have a hero complex. I fully admit that when I grew up, I wanted to be the guy who ran in and saved the day.
Right.
And that's a noble profession. Teaching, noble profession. A doctor's noble profession. However, what it has become, it's a job. What it's become now is there's 50 positions open and people just rock up. That's why you're getting people who will sit in the charge office and they don't want to get up and go do stuff. You know why? Because my reason for being here is it's a job. job, just over broke. That's what I'm here for. Nursing. Nursing used to be about caring for people. I've been, unfortunately, in the last maybe 10 years in hospital 3 times. I cannot tell you
what fell out.
The shocking
what fell out.
parts. Do you wake up in the morning, it's like starting a
just
1965 Chevy.
Before you talk about these nurses, because that's also important, but I just do want to go back, because you've got personal experience here that gives you a lot of cred when you talk about the police. I just saw this morning, and this is in the news again. Obviously, it's making big news the whole time now. But South Africa's parliament has established an ad hoc committee to investigate allegations of police corruption raised by KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The committee elected ANC National Congress MB Soviet Lekhanyane as its chairperson. That's his name, Soviet. During a meeting in Cape Town where members emphasized a thorough and impartial probe. But this is a serious problem, because our police in this country is already dealing with an illegitimacy problem where people don't phone the police when they're in trouble in South Africa. In fact, when the police pitch up, you're like, oh, shit, this is going to be worse. Right? That's how it's going now. I know there are good policemen and good policewomen who are doing their absolute best job they could. And they're against all odds, right? Because our police stations are all an absolute nightmare. They're the dirtiest, most depressing places in the country. If you've had terrible things, that's usually why you're there, happened to you. If you've had horrible experiences, that's why you go there. And then the people that you meet are these poorly trained, underpaid, often not necessarily good people.
They don't want to be there.
Who don't want to be there. So what do we do? If I made you police minister tomorrow, where would you start?
It's a big task. The problem is the problem is not only with the police, it's in every company. I always say the problem with most companies is you employ the wrong people in the beginning.
Yeah.
So what you're going to have to do is, remember many years ago, different story. Many years ago, I had dinner with, you might have remembered him, I believe arguably the greatest rugby coach this country's ever had, Jake White.
Yeah.
And I sat he'd just taken over the Springboks, and they'd lost 2 or 3 games in the Tri-Nation, back then it was called that, and they won it. And I'd do the big halls. We were in Springs, brother. We were in Springs Hall.
That's
and
lovely.
Him and I were going to do a talk. We're sitting at the table, and I'm sitting there, and I'm saying to him, Jake, we've just been through about 20 different coaches and Staldraat and all the stuff we had. You have had that team for 1 season, and you won a thing. And he looked at me, and he said to me, yeah, I'm a big hero. He said, all I did was minimum standards.
Okay, so
all I did was I said to the guy, if you're a front row forward and you want to be even just looked at to come to the trials, you have to be able to bench press 10% more than your body weight. You need to be able to sprint that distance as a forward. So you had the parameters, but the problem there was, and this is the crux, he needed to look at all of the stars of the day who were no longer in that thing, and you needed to get rid of the stars. So imagine now you come out and you say, well, by the way, he's not going to play today. And you go, why not? Because he didn't meet the minimum standards. He's been trading on his street cred and his history.
Sure.
But right now, there's a minimum requirement to play international rugby. And he was obviously, can you imagine coming in and saying to your top 5 players, but I'm sorry, you can't meet the minimum. You've got to go. He says, I went in there and I was unpopular, but I needed to get the baseline up. So what do we do with the police? Same thing. You walk in there and you say, right, everybody across the board, they do it in corporates all the time, reapply for your job. How do you reapply for your job? Okay, I'll tell you what you do, Constable. I need you to take your weapon out right now, and I need you to make it safe. All I need you to do, take that weapon out and show me that you have the basic skills to handle a weapon, and you'll find that 70-80% of them will drop the thing, shoot somebody in the foot because they don't have...
You don't want to be in that room.
You don't want to be in the room,
absolutely. Doing the test.
Absolutely. So you've got to look at the minimums, and you've got to say, right, these are the minimums. However, by doing that, you are going to upset a lot of people. And the unfortunate thing in our country, when people get upset, they don't send an email. So what you've got a problem with, is, especially in the police force, you've got to raise the minimum standards and get rid of the people who don't actually qualify, but you're trying to get rid of people who have got firearms.
Yeah, it makes it a lot harder.
So the first order, I become the commissioner, you say, right, as in the old days, all the firearms are kept in the safe and you book it out on a daily basis. But you won't be able to book that firearm out until you've done the basics, until you requalify and reapply for your job. But raise the standards. Yeah. In nursing, same thing, raise the standard. The 3 occasions...
No, but all we've done in this country over the last 10 to 15 years is drop the standard.
Absolutely.
We've tried to make it more accessible and inclusive.
And Gareth,
across the board,
where
all
does
that's
it
done is
start?
damage.
Again, I don't know when you were in school. In our school, we had one level of education. You got you got 40 or 50%, otherwise you failed.
No. By the time I was at high school,
did they bring standard grading yet?
For the last 3 years of high school, we had lower grade, standard grade, higher grade.
Okay, so we went from higher grade, and then they brought in standard grade, lower it, yes?
Yeah.
And then the kids looked around and thought, but this oak's doing half the homework with multiple choice questions, so they dropped down to that
now
standard.
Now they got maths lit.
And then they've got lower grade, and now, listen, there's a new one now. It's called functional education. In other words, if you can write your name and you can maybe add single digits, they will give you a matric certificate. Now, if it's
functional education. So if I see that on someone, does it get marked on their matric certificate?
I don't think it says FE, but if you know,
because if I see that, I'm like, no, I'm not hiring this retard.
But that person then gets a free ride into varsity, where the standards are lower as well.
No, but you can't go to varsity if you have functional education.
Why not? Why not? Because you've got to be inclusive and previously disadvantaged.
No.
So that Gareth, they do it all the time.
You can't have because okay. So there are some people who cannot follow an instruction. You know what I'm talking about, right? And I'm sure that you've made many of these speeches. You've spoken to many people. You've actually got involved in helping people, make better decisions in their life. You know that there's a group of people who positively cannot be given an instruction and carry it out. They can't follow simple, please take this to the kitchen and wash it for me. Like, you just get blank stares, right? These people have no ability to connect A to B at all.
That's a politician.
And many of our politicians, sure. Politics is absolutely chock full of really bad people because it's a zero barrier to entry job, right? You have to win a popularity contest in your local neighborhood.
Be a member of a gang and be the leader of that gang, and you can be a politician.
But then there are people who actually do more damage in a job than good because they have no ability to discern right from wrong, left from right, up from down. Yeah. So these are, and by the way, I'm not being nasty. It's not like we're trying to categorize people as being, I'm cleverer than you and you're not as clever as me or whatever it might be. Because there are many people who are going to come up much cleverer than me and many people who come up cleverer than you. The reality is, though, if we don't have these standards, if we don't apply a hierarchy of abilities to people, you're going to end up with a functional education person running the nuclear reactor like Homer Simpson in The Simpsons, and you're going to have terrible accidents. So you need to actually have some grasp of what the person's capacity is. So yes, you go to school to learn to read and write and do basic arithmetic and write your name and all that stuff. That's important. And most people will come through school being able to do those things at very least at grade 4 or 5 level, right? Yeah. Somewhere around there.
Again, good enough for politicians.
Sure, good enough. And you know what? As long as you can live up to 18 after that.
Our lowest one was grade 7 politician.
Yeah, but these are people because you get a vote. You're a person like everybody else. But if you're hiring people, if you're going into the workforce, if you're expected to do a job, and remember, we're going into the age of AI now, where most of the people we're talking about with functional education are going to be inferior to the ability of AI. And those people are not going to find jobs. And we're not preparing them for a life where they can make a contribution. And if you have a life where you can't make a contribution, it's a horrible life. It's a meaningless, remorseless machine that you get up every day, you don't have anything to live for. Other people don't value you. It's just this miserable machine that you go into. We've got to find a way to find those people, some part of the economy, some part of society, where they can thrive, where they can do as well as they can. But unless we are able to figure out these people have those abilities, those people have way better or worse abilities, how the hell are we going to put people in positions where they can do the best they can?
So they can, this whole thing with AI, by the way, I love AI. I think AI is amazing.
Yeah.
And I use it all the time. One of my newsletters, when I send my newsletters out, it's me having a conversation. I call my AI Socrates.
Okay.
And I go, and me and Sock have a conversation. And
Socrates.
I say, yo, Sock, so tell me about AI taking over the world and stuff. So the last newsletter I sent out, we had a banter about AI taking over the world. And the concept was simple. Some jobs need to be taken away from people.
Drudgery.
No. You know the people when you walk into a restaurant and the person looks like they're doing you a favor by serving your table? Or you pull up at a garage and the person's like, you put fuel in your car. It's like you think, I'm terribly sorry to mess up your day. So where technology can take those mundane jobs away, I'm all for it. However, how do people fit in? People fit in is that technology should only be there for you to be and spend more time with your clients. Use the technology to actually, and what do these people do the best? And I had a dream. Africa, as far as I can tell, is one of the most, if not the most beautiful continents of all the continents. If you actually go in, we have got some breathtaking stuff happening, not only in our country, in Africa. I mean, Jeremy Clarkson once did a trip through, what do we think about Zimbabwe? All we see is broken down stuff. But he went into the mountains and to the places, and he even says one of the most beautiful countries he's ever been to was Zimbabwe. So we as a can you imagine us as a tourist destination? If we as Africa can make a rule, the rule is rule number 1. Tourists are not to be touched. In other words, you do not harm them, you don't steal from them, So in other words, you make it the safest continent for tourists to come to. Now, you now have people.
It's already fairly cheap, so it makes a lot of sense.
And people without skills. People without skills, you know what they can use? They can use their personalities.
Yeah, because we've got a lot of that.
What does it cost when somebody walks in and they go, morning, welcome?
Oh, I know. And most South Africans, I'll speak up for us on this because we've been very down on South Africa for the last couple of minutes. We're very good at being hospitable and friendly.
We used to be known as the friendliest country in the world.
Right.
People would come here and go, the people are amazing. And then I say, just don't go down to your local supermarket. Don't go into a Clicks. Don't go into it because you get those people who are sitting there. And again, their heads are down because they think life is so bad. But you look at them and you say, but do you have a job, Squeezer? Yes. Do you have medical aid? Yes. Do you know you were better off than 30-40% of people in our country? You've got a job, Squeeze. Let's do it. Tell me, and say, oh, you're right, oh, you're right. It's just, I want people, I walk in a place and I want them to lift their heads, and it takes nothing to
when you
use
walk
your
away, she's
personality.
like, this motherfucker. All I wanted is ring up his stupid list of bullshit groceries and let him be on his way, right?
Bloops, bloops.
Carl DeSantos says, if you make me police minister tomorrow, the problems are not that hard to solve. It takes guts, a backbone, and above average IQ. Russell says, school. Hang on. Is that Russell says Soviet the shoe or Soviet the regime? No, that's a name. Some parents gave this guy the name Soviet. Obviously, during the struggle, that was a popular name. My school abolished math lit in 2012, says Shannon. That's a long time ago. I'm seeing a CPT try to clear around. A CPT would be a community police trainee or something. I don't know what this is. You use too many slippery pickle. You're using way too many acronyms. What is it? No, I don't understand.
CPT.
And then DFO. Right, too many acronyms. Slippery pickle, you've lost your mind. I think you're just vomiting up words. Don't drink so early in the morning. Veronica says, people started paying tax for security when a country has no security. Why do people pay tax? That's a very good point. Durban Dope says, SAPC's worst people get the public-facing positions, like working in the charge office or on shifts. The best and most competent are the back of house doing the cushy office hour jobs. You think that's probably true?
No, I think it's across the board. They're just employing the wrong people. Remember, because they put out a notice saying there's jobs available, and anybody whose pitches up, and we're getting now people who are graduates who are taking jobs in shops behind counters. They got degrees because they're
true.
pushing them out so many times, and there's no jobs.
Yeah, and
so you're getting when they open up the post and there's 500 positions, they get something like 10,000 applicants, and most of them have got degrees. And they say, well, what are you doing working in a Virgin Active behind the counter? And they go, I'm a BCom.
It's the only place I can get a job.
Only place I can get a job. Yeah.
I want to talk to you about one other thing before we wrap up this hour, and we've only got 5 minutes here. So you talk about authenticity a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so in a filtered world, and I mean, obviously you're referring there to social media and how everybody's kind of fake. They present a fake version of themselves online, and not just in, photographs that are filtered on Instagram. They also put filters on what they think, what they say, what they write, what they do. It's not just their appearance. Am I right?
Yeah. So authenticity is it's probably the biggest. If you look at the young people that I say, well, how do I find a girlfriend? How do I find a boyfriend? How do I find? So just be authentic, be yourself. But it's very difficult to be yourself in a fake world because you don't read. A lot of people haven't taken the time and trouble to find out who they are. So when you ask them, people, so what is your view on? What is your view on it? Most people don't have a view on it. The view they have is everybody else's view.
Yeah.
So
They've
what
never
you've got
really
to do,
thought about
never
it
thought
from
about it.
first
So if you start
principles,
thinking about it and you do the internal work, that's when yes, nothing nicer than meeting somebody who's real. Who walks in a room and sits down and goes, I'm battling with my bond payments or something. Or and I believe one of the reasons when I speak to people, and I've been speaking now for 32 years, as soon as you walk into a room and you can show people, I'm one of you, I'm not better than you, I am one of you, and you start talking about things like Thursday I was at the Mug and Bean and this happened, people look at you and they go, damn, it's a real person, as opposed to the people who are driving cars they can't afford, living in houses they can't afford, going places they can't afford, only to impress people they don't like and who don't like them.
They don't even know. It's not even people they don't like.
That's
it.
People they don't know. David Goggins was great when he says he spent his entire life, he says, how sad was this? I spent my entire life trying to impress people, average people.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to impress a billionaire or a Nobel laureate, or he was trying every single day to be liked and loved and respected by average Joe Schmoes. He says, how pathetic is that? He said, so he had to raise his game and look inside himself and say, if there's anybody I'm going to be proud of, it's myself. And how am I going to be proud of myself is I've got to do the internal work. I have to start looking at the demons. I have to start looking at my skill set. I've got to wake up every single day and be the best I can be. And when you meet someone, you've done it, you've got thousands of guests. The best people to meet is somebody who's just down to earth and has got no airs and graces and no pretense. Yeah. Those are the best people. People gravitate towards them.
Okay, so let's say you're struggling with this. I mean, this is where you get to give advice to all of us. Let's say that you're one of those people who is struggling with this. You're going through your day-to-day existence. You're posting things on social media. You're doing your job. You're living your life. But you're not actually authentic, and you want to be. Like, what's the first step to doing that? Because it's a little bit of, you've got to risk a bit to get a return, right? So sometimes you actually have to consider how you feel about something and be honest with yourself and think about it for a little bit and then give an answer that matters.
Yeah.
As opposed to just churning out whatever you see and hear other people saying.
Yeah. You've got to, listen, as you were talking there, the first thing popped in my head was the difference between being alone and lonely.
Yeah.
Now, as soon as you start being authentic, as soon as you start having your own opinion,
you should be okay with being alone.
You're going to affect other people around you. Because remember, people say, well, how can I be popular, have lots of friends?
No.
Go along and agree with everything everybody says. However, as soon as you start going, hang on, no, I don't think I'm going to go drinking on Friday night. I think I'm going to, people pull back because now all of a sudden the spotlight's on them that they can't not do that. So they don't embrace you and go, geez, Gareth, the fact that you go to gym every morning, you wake up
so
at 5.
authentic.
I wish I could be like you. You know what I mean? People look at you and go, it's like that guy, you come to work, it's dark outside, it's freezing cold, you're driving down the road, the air conditioner is on to cook, you're flipping freezing, and across the headlights you see these naked legs running shorts and a vest. This guy's already on his 20th kilometer, and you look past him and you don't stop and go, how do you do that? I admire you. We drive past and go, bloody mad. Why? Because we are not prepared or can't do what that person does, so we call that person mad. I call those people Section 8s. Section 8s are people who make a difference. These are the people who stand their ground, who speak their truth, who don't go to parties when other people go, who don't have inappropriate jokes when there are women standing around. You know those people who stand up and they're just a step above everybody. Now, by doing that, you are going to alienate a lot of the aanhangers and a lot of the people who basically are the ones who are you've got to agree with them all the time. So when you don't and you start standing your own ground, you might spend more time at home alone. But being alone and being lonely are two different things.
Yeah.
And I believe that the authentic people, you get pissed off with me, so what? I'm prepared to go home and do my thing, and I don't need your average person's acceptance of me, as long as I know that inside myself, that compass, that moral compass that I'm following my moral compass. And yes, it's okay. It's okay and people, and they get judged. Because on social media, all their buddies are still taking photographs and doing all that stuff. And you're sitting at home going, something wrong with me. I say there's not. I say there's nothing wrong with you. Because every pot has a lid. You'll find that as long as you work your truth. Right. And it's okay to be on your own. Sometimes it's empowering to be on your own. You don't have to listen to nagging and put up with other people's shit.
Yeah.
You can just be your own person. And that, when you meet somebody who can see that you're your own person, then you now start living your authentic life. But in the beginning, you're going to have to lose some friends. You're going to have to break some eggs. And that means that you'll step away. You will be alone for a while, but not lonely. That's different.
I love that. I can't think of a better way to end this hour, but it's always good to see you. And thank you for coming in on Monday and today, even though we didn't get to see you on Monday because you arrived here at shame. How long did you spend in traffic?
2.5 hours for a trip that today took me 50 minutes.
Oh, you see, it's so unpredictable. Huh?
But thank you. I mean, thank you for actually being chilled about it. I mean, my golden rule is never be late. You are never late. And also, I was only late. I missed the whole thing. And I get you. And you and the guys are going, we thrive on chaos and it's not a problem. And you get up and walk it, and I'm going, geez, these are pretty chilled.
Yeah,
so thanks for doing that.
And listen, I mean, having done years of radio, there's some things just happen.
Yeah.
You can't predict anything.
Happens.
Now, if people loved what you had to say this morning, and I suspect many will, where can they find out more?
Yeah, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on
filtered pictures.
Yes, I've got the filter. I look 26. I look like an estate agent.
All right, so they can find you there.
Estate agents, their photographs, and all of a sudden you meet them and go, "Sorry,
you don't look like
where's
that.
your daughter?"
Yeah. My favorite thing is to collect really shitty names from estate agents' boards, because you'll find people with terrible
names.
Yeah, terrible names. I've got a whole list of them. Hang on, let me give you some here.
Estate agents with shitty names.
Yeah, we got to wrap this up, but let me just
Sherlock Holmes.
No, I've got a list of cuck names. Listen to this one.
Okay.
I've just added a few to it now recently. Shonzel. That's an actual woman's name.
Okay.
Zantus.
Okay.
There's mostly really shit Afrikaans names.
Yeah.
Tanike, which it was Tanik, but with a thing on the E. I think South Africans, if you're going to use accents on E's or on A's, you need to know what they do to the sound. Because there are two French accents. There's the accent grave and there's the accent aigu, right? And you need to know which one you're using. And if you don't know which one you're using, you shouldn't give your child that name, because you could be calling them something that sounds horrific.
No, but the thing is, they just go, "I love it when you talk French."
Yeah, it sounds nice and exotic.
My name is Jean René.
Yeah, Jean René, exactly. That's the kind of
But
name.
that probably is a name, eh?
I'm
sorry, all the Jean Renés. I apologize. I just made a word up.
All right, listen, Gavin Sharples, lovely to see you, dude, and have an awesome week. Thanks for coming to spend some time with us today.
Thank you very much.
Very good. By the way, BFG says this hits hard. Yes, behind on my bills, but I'm a dad and I'm always around and figuring it out. Well, you're doing the right thing then. That's a start. So I don't think anyone's going to go, "Oh, well, you're such a loser." They're going to be like, "Oh, this guy's standing up and being counted." So good for you. All right, we'll be back in a moment or two. Don't go anywhere.
Will not bring you in luck.
Not
that one. Please don't cut my lips.
No, please. Please, can we welcome Refilwe Mudisele? naturally, as every person, there were moments where I felt like I was not good enough. I did get bullied in school, mind you, but I think I didn't really realize I was being bullied. I just thought, girls are just nasty to each other, because I went to an all-girls school. All my life I went to all-girls.
I left an all-girls school.
I said, you are stronger than me. I said, Dad, Mom, take me out the cameras. No. I'm very excited today because they brought me back. No, Ntantla, I didn't hide in the studio. And wait for my moment. Men are not just trash because of a look. They're just okay. You're not trash. Men are problem.
Men are just the problem because they need to fix themselves.
All right, one of the biggest moments, I think, as a sports fan that I had was back in 2007. It was a really great time. It was the Rugby World Cup. Not any kind of Rugby World Cup, of course. It was the one that the Springboks won. The man who was in charge of all that, basically, the man who raised the trophy, the man that brought it all to us, was none other than John Smith. And here he is in studio with us.
But if it's any consolation, it was one of my favorite sporting moments as well.
I hope so. Great. We're on a level pegging here.
Episode 61. The big 2007 Rugby World Cup show with John Smith, dropping 14th of August.
All right, good morning and welcome back to our live show. We've got lots of things to do this Wednesday morning, but I'm just thrilled to have someone who I haven't seen in person for a long while, but he's somebody that I always love seeing. Makes me happy because we've got lots of incredible memories and fun experiences on boats and on islands and with his wife and children, and just the most incredible thing. Knowing somebody who's as fun as this, Stefano Vigoriti. It's very nice to see you, Steph.
Ciao, Gareth.
Nice to see you. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
I've just been traveling a lot this year, so it's always nice to sort of get back into South Africa and stay a little bit.
You're my favorite South African Italian or Italian South African, depending on how you put that together.
I don't even know myself.
It's hard to figure it out. But if you think you recognize Stefano, you will, because he's been on our show a number of times. We used to do like World Cup soccer stuff. We used to talk about Rome and Italy, and you told me where to stay when I was there last time. And so, I mean, there's no doubt somebody who's going, hang on, I've seen that guy before. So what are you up to at the moment?
Well, I'm still working for MSC Cruises. I think
of course.
I can't say that. And,
what a great company.
And we are... we're proceeding in South Africa with quite a lot of new things. We have opened a call center for the whole entire English-speaking world. So we are the center of the booking system for our company.
But you also built that whole thing on the island there for them.
We built the two destinations, Pomene, which you have not seen, and
Still not.
Portuguese Island, and we've obviously built also the cruise terminal in Durban. In 2021, just in the middle of COVID, or just after it finished, and so we've invested quite a lot in the country, and we have a program of hiring a lot of South Africans onto our ships, and that's still going strong. And overall, we've got our seasonality, what we call it our winter season, but it's obviously summer season for South Africa, with our ships with home porting in Durban going to Mozambique, and then out of Cape Town going to Namibia. 4 or 5 months from November right up to April. So, I think we are a pretty familiar sight at the moment in the South African holiday space. And,
Definitely,
and it's going good.
But that's not what we were talking about, because as much as you're busy with all of that, you're also, it's not like you to just do one thing.
No.
So you told me the other day that you want to talk about, and this came out of left field for me. I know that you've been in the soccer world. I know that you were very involved in water polo. But you said to me, we've got to talk about what's happening in South African water polo. I knew a little bit about this because I know someone who went to Singapore just the last few weeks. The South African team apparently didn't go very well.
Not at all.
It must have cost for each of these people a lot of their own money to get there.
That's the problem. That's one of the many problems that water polo is facing at the moment in South Africa.
So how did you get involved in water polo South Africa, and what's that all about?
Well, in a nutshell, just going back to your previous guest, I hope you think I'm an authentic person.
Oh, hell yeah.
We're talking
Please.
about authenticity,
No,
which is an important part
you're
of that
one of the most
discussion.
authentic people I know.
I've known Alan Fritz, which is the chairman of Swimming South Africa, for quite a while. We got introduced when I started, with a friend of mine who obviously actually runs the foundation, Aquazzurra Foundation, which is a foundation that really wants to take care of children who are sort of less fortunate, to make them safe into the water. The idea of starting Aquazzurra Foundation was to make these children,
because
who
we do have people drowning in dams and rivers.
We have a huge problem, and that's how I met Alan, and on and off we sort of saw each other for coffee and for lunches, and I always said, what are you doing about water polo? Because really water polo is nowhere in this country. Yes, but don't worry, we're going to work on it. We're going to work on it, and I think we saw him again. I saw him again in April, just after the Gauteng Invitational, and I said, let's get together. And he says, look, you've always complained about water polo not being up to standard. Would you be interested in taking over? And I said, what do you mean by taking over? He says, I'll give you the executive director job if you want it, and you can change water polo the way you see it fit, because I like your ideas and all the rest. So I was taken a little bit aback because I had refused to work with the Italian Chamber to take a role there because I was busy with my work. But then I thought, maybe next year I have some time to sort of dedicate. Little did I know that as I got involved, I said, look, it's obviously something that I'd like to do. I think I can do it, but let me see what the real state of water polo is at the moment, because I've been out of water polo for the last 3-4 years, ever since I broke every single bone in my leg, which gave away, sort of put the word end to my soccer and water polo.
It must have been hard, right? I mean, I know how much you love that
also,
stuff.
but when I look at my passport, I say, what the hell are you doing still playing these sports? Getting a little bit old. And obviously I found out a lot of things. And the first thing, which I already knew, was that South Africa has a phenomenal, fantastic school water polo system run by water polo, Schools Water Polo South Africa, which is run by Richard Irvine, which was the first person that I wanted to be part of my sort of wise man council, together with Lacey Mens, which is an American lady who lives in, I think it's in George. I don't want to say it wrong, but I think it is in George. And really, nowhere in the world, I would say nowhere in the world, you can find a school system with water polo as efficient and as successful as the one in South Africa. And that is a testament to, obviously, their good work. I mean, comparing to historical countries like, Hungary, Croatia, Serbia, Italy, Spain, Greece, the stalwarts of water polo, with obviously the Australians and the Americans with the college water polo, obviously very, very strong. But at school level,
So what happens between school and the next level?
That's the big problem. It just disappears because there has been the inability of Swim in South Africa to create something that would, bridge those two. You go to university and you have maybe 4 or 5 universities here, Tax, UCT, Stellies. I'm sure I'm forgetting. I mean, Wits at one stage was on, UJ at one stage was on. They're no longer, sort of effective with the water polo. So it just disappeared. And at club level, they never really were supported. And it's always been a case of obviously being a summer sport. But I mean, it became so popular. And we have to say popular in the private schools. So schools that were able to obviously offer a pool and obviously coaches which were sort of fit to not only do swimming but also water polo. Having said that, obviously I saw a lot of problems, and I presented to the board of Swimming South Africa my vision, my strategy, and my implementation. They said that I was going to have this job up until Brisbane 2032. So it was an 8-year plan. So we obviously needed to work, proper. And it had to be radical. That radical transformation, it's not what people would think radical transformation is in South Africa at the moment. But we needed to really change the mindset to make sure that whatever we have built at school, although, in my opinion, not with as efficient coaching as it should have been.
Right.
But nevertheless, sort of people
But
were
I mean,
playing the sport.
even if the schools were doing a pretty reasonable job, which it sounds like they are, certain schools anyway, it should happen to be the case that after school you get even better training and coaching, and that you can keep improving.
And you go to the next level.
So what is the state of? Do we have a national water polo team?
We do.
Who's
We do.
on it? Who manages that? Who funds it? Like the sport in this country, it seems like individual sports we do really well because someone is a golfer or they're a swimmer or they do some individual sport and they get out there and they manage to make it work. They find some money, some support, they excel. Team sports in this country.
Okay, you got one problem. Let's just take swimming, for example.
Yeah.
How are you going to become a competitive swimmer who can represent your country? You are fighting against the clock. You do not have to be any color, any gender, any race.
Yeah.
That is your aim. And if you reach that goal by clocking a certain amount, you're going to be popular. Teams, different story.
Sure.
And that's where we talk about transformations, and I'm all for transformation. But there hasn't been the way the transformation that people have expected. I obviously clashed with the board when I presented it because I was radical, and I said, we have to do all of these things. We have to forget about what we've done. You keep talking about high performance. We are at the bottom of the bottom. A high performance can only come once you have a good selection of players and you have built them up to go to HP. Not that you have to have HP just because it sounds good. And I said, and you need the development. Boy, when I said that word development, they said, but you're always thinking that, Africans or people with previously disadvantaged need development. And I said, you're diminishing the word development to your standards. For me, development is making a player a better player.
Right.
You are saying development, I'm using it to identify somebody who's not good, who's never going to be good, and has just been put aside in development because of certain, facial features, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was obviously wrong. So I obviously clashed with the board. I was even told things that I won't even say here that I was accused of. And I said, look, it's getting a bit difficult. So the implementation, the strategy was all good, but I couldn't really choose the coaches. I couldn't really choose who I wanted to be on my side because they had to obviously vouch for that and veto it. So some people who are these guys that we are, talking about today in the water polo world, or at least the South African world, which is South African water polo, these guys warned me. First, they looked at me and said, oh, these guys from Swimming South Africa, we don't trust them. And I said, look, I'm here as much as you are. Excuse me. We've been doing masters. We've been, sort of in the same field of coaching and discussions for many, many years. What you want is what I want, and possibly not what Swim in South Africa wants. Because these guys, let's face it, they are attached to their jobs. And it's not so much the chairman who is who's got his own job and it's a figure, sort of I don't think he gets any salary or anything like that. But then you have the full structure of Swim in South Africa, which obviously also runs swimming, synchro, diving, and water polo.
But hang
and
on.
Open water.
So if I look it up, if I Google water polo South Africa, then the first one that comes up is water polo South Africa, and then swimming South Africa comes up straight underneath it.
Well, because they've done a good job. SA Water Polo has done a good job of marketing themselves.
Okay, but then if I were a school kid and I'd done really well at water polo at school, and I wanted to carry on doing that, and I wanted to see whether it could take me to faraway places to be able to compete.
At the end of the day,
what do I do? How do I know where to go?
It's an amateur's job.
Sure.
I remember, who's the guy, the Mohican, the rugby player, the huge guy. They used to play for the Bulls. And I know him because I sat next to him, and he plays number 5 in the Springboks. Anyway, and also Marks, Marco Marks. They all played water polo. But this guy said to me, I was at a crossroads between rugby and water polo. I prefer to play water polo, but where would it get me professionally? Nowhere. That's why I decided to go with the Bulls. And I mean, this huge guy. I cannot, for the life of me, maybe somebody can help me remind me.
But I mean, water polo's got a reputation for being a really tough sport, first of all.
It is a very tough sport.
It's hard as nails.
They say that as far as the Olympics is the second hardest sport after boxing. After boxing.
I'm not saying in a bad way. I'm saying in a good way. Like, people take it seriously. And if you do it properly, I mean, it's vicious too.
Yes,
you have to be.
It has changed quite a lot. But yes, it's very, very physical, and it's very, very taxing. I mean, you play 4 chukkers or 4 quarters of 8 minutes stop start, and you'll end up being in the water, treading water for about 55 minutes. And it's not something that, if you're not well sort of trained or fit for it, you're not going to sort of last. But having said that, these guys eventually said, you're going to have problems with swimming in South Africa because we've all been there before. And I was hopeful, and I said, look, guys, maybe because the fact of I'm Italian and because I've been brought in by the chairman, maybe something is going to happen. And they said to me, okay, we trust you because the vision is the same, but let's see if they allow you to do that. And it wasn't, and then I saw it, that they would not allow me to make the transformations or the changes. Because, again, transformation sounds.
So when did you part ways then? Because I imagine you didn't want to give up. No,
I didn't. Yeah. I really hoped that we could find sort of a common ground. But more than the chairman, who obviously had to stand by its own board for whatever reason. I saw it in March. I remember I was on the ship, and we had this Teams meeting, and I said, look, I need to have an answer, yes or no, whether you want me to implement these things. And obviously they put another selector, national selector, in front of me, which I said from the word go, I do not want him. He's been forever in the water polo, and he has not done water polo justice in this last 20 years. Nothing against the man personally, but it just did not produce what everybody expected to produce out of water polo. So, and then they put a coach, which I didn't choose. So again, you've been given the reins, but it's
but
like,
you're not making the decisions.
You're running Ferrari, but I'm choosing the director of technical director and the driver.
Yeah. So what's the point?
Exactly. So they warned me. The guys from South Africa Water Polo warned me. I obviously engaged with them, trying to find common grounds on which to work together, because I think that was the best solution to go, was to work together. And again, I said to them, you don't really go to run a country if you're not part of the parliament. If you're a revolutionary and you want to have your revolution, you've got to eventually go into a parliament to be voted in, and then you can run the country. So I was in, and I said, and I hoped, which was a vain hope, to say, let me go in, I'm in, let me try and see if I can get some sense into them. And I didn't. And then obviously you realize a lot of things. I've used many times the word, you play for South Africa. I mean, these guys that you were talking about, these youngsters that they aspire, being an amateur sport, what do you aspire? The most is that you represent your country at the Olympics. And we didn't go to the Olympics in 2024. And for whatever reason, and which was, to me, was a feeble excuse, because they didn't organize themselves well enough to actually have it. Look, let's make no mistakes. Swimming South Africa, as a federation, as a sports federation, is probably the most successful sports federation that there is in this country because of swimming.
Right.
If somebody brings gold medals, make no mistake, swimming South Africa does, and we've seen it in Singapore. Peter Kotze won the 100 meters breaststroke and beat the world record holder, which is the Italian guy Ceccon. So we have the talent, but that talent is being kept looking at the clock. Doesn't matter who you are, okay? And water polo, no, we have to have this, we have to have that, we have to this, we have to do this. And eventually it is, if you can pay, you can play.
Oh, wow.
It's pay for play. It did not really warrant, the real true phenomenon, because we do have phenomenally good players in this country, okay, which have been overlooked. And where are these guys now after school? They're all in the States, especially the girls.
Yeah.
They're all playing water polo. They've all got bursaries in the States playing college water polo, and they're great. But what do? We do not even take those into consideration because they did not come in for the trials. I mean, how can you
That's
ask
ridiculous.
somebody who come from the trials? So we had a lot of discussions. We had a lot of, obviously, fights, raising the voices. And I've been told many times, that I lack the respect of these positions of the CEO and the operational manager and the chairman. And I said, well, but if you do not understand that water polo really needs a radical change, nothing is going to happen because you're going to carry on in your merry way.
So does this mean you have nothing to do with it, but you're worried about it? Or are you going to get back in? I mean, is there a way for you to kind of...
I've always
because you're
said,
passionate.
No,
I know one thing about you. You would do this for nothing in terms of payment or anything. But if you're passionate about something, you get it done.
Look, I had, when you talk about payment and all the rest, I said, obviously I'll do it because this would be a job. I'm paid, but I'm prepared to bring in the sponsors.
Yeah.
And that is what I think initially
got them excited.
Got them excited about me because I could bring, and remember, being a sport mainly played in private schools, I think water polo has the richest parents in terms of and the wealthiest parents in terms of positions of responsibilities into big corporations. And I am sure that they would be ready and willing if there is a proper, sound, valid program. They would get our national teams properly developed. They would put money into it.
So let's just, you mentioned how well some of the swimmers did in Singapore, but what happened to our water polo team? What do you think? What do you think that was?
I don't want to belittle the teams and the players because obviously they went there with all very good intentions. The coaches as well went with all very good intentions. Very few of those I would have chosen. Very few of those coaches I would have chosen. Be that as it may, it was embarrassing because, first of all, they had very little time to organize themselves. Eventually, it had to be who can manage to pay 70 grand to go to Singapore. And don't worry, those 2 or 3 we will put the money in. We will pay because obviously they can't afford it. Someone has been accused that being part, and that's the truth. unfortunately, you can sugarcoat it any way you want it, but this is the truth. We have a board member of Swimming South Africa who's got her own daughter in the national team. Okay, now, conflict of interest?
Well, is she good?
That I'm not even going to comment because it would be unfair on her.
Because
and it would be,
this is the country of nepotism. I mean, how many politicians do we have?
Please step aside. If you want your daughter to really be meaningful in that sport,
to
then
be
step
evaluated
aside.
on her merits, sure.
It's that we don't know. That we don't know. But this is what was one of the things that obviously was highlighted by South African water polo, and obviously shunted down by but you're being racist, you're thinking of these things and all the rest. But unfortunately, that's the truth. That is the plain truth. That's what we are seeing.
So I've got a couple of comments here for you.
Ouch.
Congo Chris says the Portuguese island destination is fantastic. Then
Back on
Nita Keela says, Stefano is known for many good things, but he's still well remembered for the Take a Tumble ad.
Wow.
Where you were the goalkeeper in the Tumbles ad.
That's
You see, people know you.
1987.
People know
Thank you very much for remembering
You're a massive
that.
celebrity, I'm telling you. We live in such a fake plastic world, says Straya Mate. It's beyond sad, I think. I don't know what that's all about. School polo has been rocked by several scandals in recent years. That's also true.
That's another thing that I wanted to address. Unfortunately, the coaching.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of run-ins. South African water polo is run by school teachers.
Yeah.
Which are coaches.
Yeah.
Because they all work in schools. And you can't. I said to them, we had to have professional water polo coaches who will teach and train proper coaching techniques. And I mean, look, we've got some fantastic coaches. But, you cannot pick from a school, your national coach. It's impossible. You have to have somebody who will dedicate, and then it becomes obviously a job. It's a profession because we have the means and we have the human material to have a great water polo team. It's just, unfortunately, the administration and the management has been non-existent. And that is what I've been, I tried to sort of change. I've been told, I can't confirm it, that whatever I wrote is now being implemented by somebody else.
Oh.
Which is
so they listened
ironic,
to you, but they didn't want you to do it.
Which is ironic. Obviously, people say to me, but why didn't you copyright it? I said, copyright what?
No, sure.
We're not yet to copyright anything. I mean, it was a collective effort with a lot of coaches. I mean, we had teams meeting. I never really wanted to do this on my own because, to be honest, I didn't really know much about the school water polo because I was never really involved in schools water polo, more, on a club level and on masters level, given my youthful...
I know. You're younger than you look.
Yeah, I know. And... so it has always been a collective effort, and now apparently, again, I cannot comment and I cannot confirm that, that idea or most of those ideas are now trying to being implemented because we need, they were the right things to apply. It's just probably I put the wrong names onto the people that I wanted to apply.
But it's a lot of this stuff is people carve out their little province and they want to run it like an autocracy, right?
That's what unfortunately Swimming South Africa seems to be.
Alex Ferrari says water polo needs to break away from Swimming South Africa, get a proper sponsor like MSC and develop properly. Issue is that foundation is there, but no building blocks after that. But well done, Stefano, says Alex.
And who he works for?
No.
MSC.
No? Okay. So
he works for the cargo side. Yeah.
Okay, so Chris says, is there any money from SASCOC?
Okay, I've been trying to get hold of what I think it is the new chairman of SASCOC, which is Barry Hendrickse, I think it is, who's taken over from the Gideon Sams and the other guy.
Because again, if we look at what South Africa does well and where we bring our medals back from things like the Olympics, a lot of it is swimming. So swimming and water polo
that is why
need to get a little more attention.
even the minister, blasted at one stage swim in South Africa. Then they apparently had a meeting and they were all friends and, don't worry, everything is fine. So really, we do not know where, in terms of government, they stand. Because at the end of the day, again, like I said, it is one of the most, if not the most successful, together with athletics and maybe, rugby sevens, if we can win a medal here and there. But athletics and swimming are the ones who produce the medals. But when we talk about water polo, we need to dissect that from the aquatics. And I think that South African water polo has been talking to World Aquatics, which is the body that governs all the federations responsible for the national teams. Because, again, one of the biggest stumbling blocks is that you are not going to be part of the national team unless you are associated or capitation with Swim in South Africa. So South African water polo right now, all they can do is they can lift up the club level and make sure that water polo is played at a much more serious and competitive level.
Right.
They're just starting the first winter series now in Rebecca. I think it's Friday until Sunday, where they have something like the T20, with franchises where they put the best players of the country together to obviously create a much more competitive water polo tournament.
Listen, it's a fun sport to watch, and I'd encourage people to go and support it.
Oh yeah, it's a great sport. I've always played soccer and water polo. Soccer has become a business, and I've been saying that for many years at SuperSport, and with you, has become a sport, has become a business. So it's not as fun anymore to watch or to play. I mean, to play, you can still play it because all you need is a ball. Water polo, it's pure sport. It's you've got to love it if you want to do it, because you get into that pool and you come out of that pool.
I think you'd still be quite formidable.
I'd probably sit on somebody, but I would probably drown because I don't think I can go up to my neck trying to get up. But anyway, that's part of the past. I enjoyed my time when I was playing in Italy, and I enjoyed my time when I started again playing water polo in Johannesburg with all my mates. I mean, and I've met a lot of nice people. It's me not being the drinker of water polo is very much like rugby. I think there's always the afterwards, which is more important with the drinking and everything else. So I was always the one that maybe would have one beer, not the 7, and leave and probably be the designated driver, especially when we went to Masters. But I did call on you because obviously you're
trying to recruit me for water polo, obviously.
Not quite. I'd be honest with you, not quite. But can you swim?
I can swim, but I don't think I'd last very long against any of those guys. And that thing you said earlier about treading water is a real thing. I mean, that's exhausting for almost an hour.
Well,
exhausting.
Look,
and you're using...
And they say, which is not true, that the goalkeeper's position, which has always been my position, it's the easiest one because you don't have the contact and everything else.
You don't have to go out into the middle of the pool.
Boy, when you start putting pressure and you're getting ready, for the shots, you do work your legs quite a lot.
Hell yeah.
Quite a lot.
All right, but I interrupted you. You said one of the things you wanted to talk to me about.
I can't remember.
Oh, that's all right.
That's part of part of the aging process, I think.
I mean, we could talk about 100,000 different things because we've got lots of stories. I want to ask you, how are the Italians in South Africa doing? Because we've seen communities get smaller and smaller in South Africa, and we've seen people disassociate more. We were talking about with Gavin, like the family is the basic building block. You brought that up afterwards, which I think is so true. And how kind of people are either becoming less connected. They're disintermediating more. You got your friends, you got your neighborhood, but it's smaller. It's not big.
Much smaller. I mean, look, I was obviously heavily involved with the Italian community up until 2016. Then something happened.
You and I watched 2 World Cup finals at the Italian club.
2006, yes.
Right.
And and that one we won.
Yeah.
And after that,
It was the best one.
After that,
After that, who cares about
we didn't
football?
really
Yeah,
enjoy.
it's dead.
Oh my God! Let's not talk about soccer now.
Especially not Italian soccer.
No. It's,
All right, but what's happened to the Italian community here?
Look, I moved away from the community altogether for things that happened within sort of let's call it the community leaders. But what I can say is that obviously a club culture, let's say at the Italian clubs or the German club or the Swiss club or the Portuguese clubs, it is something that it's losing its appeal because the new generations are not losing their traditions and their cultures and their heritage, but it's a lot less important.
Yeah,
it's.
I blame the EU, by the way, because they took away what individual nations mean. They made it all about this thing called Europe, which nobody knows about.
And if you go against it, you'll be called, a sort of
anti-immigrant and all kinds of things.
Sovereignist and
What do you think of Meloni?
I like her.
Yeah, I like her.
And but if you like her, you are centre right. If you do not like her, you centre left.
No, but everyone these days who is not a rabid leftist is now called centre right or right wing. I mean, perfectly reasonable positions like a country should have borders. This is now an unreasonable thing for some people.
It's you have to be very careful on what you say and how you say it, especially from a political perspective, because it's you get branded, you get labeled, and because of social media and because of obviously communications, like everything else in this world, has gone at 10 times the speed. I mean, I joke with my daughter and I say, when you listen to this to your messages, you listen at twice the speed. Yeah. And when you speak now, you speak at twice the speed. I mean, everything has gone faster. And, communication, everything has to happen now. Because if it happens in 5 minutes, nobody watches a game anymore. My son will not watch a game of soccer with me. He will watch the highlights.
Yeah.
Everything is like
shrunk. And if he does watch it, he's also got his phone out, right? So he's watching that at the same time.
But now people are watching series and they're playing on the phones and all this. And I'm saying, guys, take it easy, chill, sort of enjoy. If you're watching a game, watch the game. If you're watching a series, watch a series. If you're watching a movie, don't try and do 2 or 3 things at the same time. But that is, I think, the demand. It's going faster. But going back to communities, I think, the new generations are very much more integrated with the South African, sort of way of life that they don't really have time. I mean, we used to have in the past the older men going to the clubs and sitting there playing their cards, discussing about politics and about women and about the soccer, which we're probably the only 3 subjects that one would talk about, which is probably most people. But they don't gather anymore because it's not there. I think the biggest community which is still represented in South Africa is the Portuguese community.
Yeah, the Portuguese have done a good job of it.
They still have about 3 or 4 very active clubs.
Yeah.
The Greeks have got a very active club. The Italians have got a very active club. So you have pockets.
Yeah.
But community life and community living, it's really not there. I mean, at the moment, you will agree with me, community living, it means living in an estate.
Sure.
Close by.
And then your neighbors maybe a little bit better.
And then you'll walk around, you'll go to the clubhouse and you'll say hello.
Right.
But we are living very much more, unless it is school related. Let's be honest, I think most parents meet their new friends
from their children's
of their kids.
friends, yeah.
And this is really
our
situation. Other than that, your life goes so fast, goes by so fast.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen you in over a year.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
People have questions here for you. Stefano, what do you think of Formula One? Here we go. What is your opinion on Ferrari in Formula One? There's a national crisis next to illegal immigration.
To answer about Ferrari and Formula One is I like MotoGP.
Okay.
I have grown tired of the dullness of Formula One. Even though, I must say, from a company's perspective, being a company man, we have invested heavily on the Formula One. We are one of the 5 biggest sponsors of Formula One. The name MSC's Cruises is everywhere. And we've also sponsored Alpine because of our good friend Briatore being the head of that team. So we literally having good results in terms of return on image and on branding. So from that point, I'm very happy.
But a lot of sport has become corporatized. I mean, you mentioned it with football. You mentioned it now with F1. Here's a very important question. Does Stefano break his spaghetti in half before he puts it in the pot?
Oh, I would not know you, and I would not invite you to my house if you did
That's
that.
from Bitcoin, but I love it. That's a great question. Very important.
No, unless you're having it with peas and bacon. But that's my mother's recipe. Then you break it not in 2, but you break it in 4. But that's a different dish altogether.
Very important. What is your thoughts on pineapple and pizza from Viasen?
Oh my God!
Disgusting, huh?
Disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely unacceptable.
The Hawaiian solution.
All right, then. I listen to every podcast. This podcast is live. By the way, we're going to be changing that soon. Not taking it offline. It's going to be live, but we're going to do one live show a week on a Friday and interviews the rest of the time. So lots of changes coming up. It's very exciting. And then Stefano, some other people saying that this is great what you're doing in water polo because it needs some help.
I'm trying to help the new guys. And as I said, just to finish up on the water polo because I think it is important. I said to the guys of SAWP, Robbie, Duncan, and Loazi, and all those boys, I said, look, I'm available. You know, I'm available if you need an intermediate, a mediator. If Swimming South Africa is interested, I don't think they're interested in wanting me sort of to act as a go between. But I definitely do need to stress the fact that Swimming South Africa is not going to go away.
Yeah.
And South African water polo, before they sort of take what they think is their rightful place in water polo in South Africa, it'll take time. Now, in between that time, who suffers are the athletes.
Yeah.
We've got Los Angeles 2028, which is around the corner. But people don't think of it, but you need at least 2 or 3 years to build on that.
Is that the amount of time required before getting to the Olympics to get everybody... And that team you need to have in place, you need to have a couple of people in reserve, you need to have good coaches.
We start, I mean, every year there is the World Championships. And that is where South Africa has come with the B division, we came penultimate. With the girls, we came penultimate. We came stone last with the men. Okay. We are not number 16 in the world. We're probably number 23, 24. But because of our presence and our being the biggest squad in Africa, or the best team in Africa, we represent the continent. Now, by representing the continent, we should really, do more than what we've been doing, like, getting the guys at the last moment in April and May, get them to organize and going from all over the show. You guys have to pay to get to the trainings a couple of weeks, and then, then you have only 10 days to prepare. You can't. It's a team sport. It requires, dedication. It requires training. It requires repetition, tactics, which is something that still South African coaches really, they would rather go for the strength and, I don't want to use the bruteness of it, but it's just, pure strength and aggressiveness, because for many years, water polo has always been reflecting a rugby in the water.
Yeah.
And that can't be more wrong. The approach can't be more wrong. That, it's a lot of tactics. And it's almost like basketball when really you look at it. Everything, it's a set
Makes sense.
It's a set play. So it'll take time before this thing is eventually, comes to its rightful end where proper people will manage water polo. I'm available. They know and I'm available.
And you could be really useful, and I'm just saying this because I know you, in terms of getting some money into it, because that's a big problem too. It's not going to get funding from the South African taxpayers.
Look,
it's not a priority.
I'll give you an
sport.
example. When I was given this job, I went to speak to Paolo Cavalieri, who headed out Hollard Insurance, because he had a very similar experience in 2006, 2007, when he took over rowing. Now, you will remember that we did win some medals in rowing.
We did very well.
Why? Because the man took over. The man organized himself by bringing coaches from overseas, had a program. He was left alone to run it, and he produced results after 3 or 4 years, which was great. Okay, so I went to Paolo and I said, tell me what you did, because I want to, sort of do a little bit what you've done. And it was all a question of finding the right motivation, the right people, the right type of money, i.e. sponsors, who would believe and would know that this money would be used
properly
for that.
Right.
And that is what has always stopped the sponsors, the big corporates, to, let's say, make arrangements or make agreements with the federations, because there's always been this sort of shadow of doubt of where this money would end up going. And unfortunately, they don't do themselves any justice, Swim in South Africa, because they have people who are very, very arrogant from a position of strength.
Someone said in the comments just now, there's a lot of ego in South African sport, and I don't think they mean the players.
No.
I think they're talking about administrators, people who've been in the business for a long time, people who think that they're entitled to a position. That kind of thing happens.
Look, it's you go into Swim in South Africa, there has not been one iota of news onto the water polo.
Yeah.
Onto water polo performances in Singapore, except when we beat New Zealand.
The last thing the last thing on their webpage, just to prove you're right, here is that they talk about the Africa Aquatics team tournament, Harare, 10 to 14 April 2025.
Oh yes, we won everybody,
and then rules and programs.
And I said to the guys, and that's where I had a huge problem, because one of the conveners had given his word that we would participate. I said, why are we participating? It's no good for us. It's just money spending. We don't have to go to Harare as much as we would like to play against Zimbabwe.
Sure.
But there's no competition. We're going to go there and win. And what? Then we're going to go and have, we've done well, we've beaten everybody. Yes, we've beaten everybody because there is no competition. Try and beat a team. And again, they made a song and dance about beating New Zealand on penalties. I think it was New Zealand, on penalties. Okay. And everywhere else we lost badly, and nobody said anything. Okay. So, but then with the swimming, a song and dance. It's unfortunately, it's a situation that we find ourselves in.
What are the positions in water polo? I don't know enough about this. How many people are in the pool?
7.
7. What are the positions?
Goalkeeper. Well, in South Africa, they've always used the words fetch and carry, which are the wings. Then you got the whole man, which is the one that sort of, in the ancient days, used to get always the fouls and get the exclusion done. And then you got your fringe players on the side. In today's world, you use numbers from 1 to 6 or from 1 to 5, and then the 6 is the whole man. So it just depends whichever tactics you use. But it is pretty much a set play. And it's become faster and faster because the amount of times that you are allowed to play, just like basketball. I think you've got 24 seconds in basketball. You have now 28 in water polo, with a slight difference that you have to swim 25 meters. Now, the biggest change in water polo in recent years has been the shortening of the pool.
Why have they done that?
Because it would really the lapse of time between defending and attacking was getting too long.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
So for the audience.
Yeah, for the audience and also for the players. I mean, it's exhausting. You probably now go 50 meters as before you used to do 25 meters. Now that's a huge difference. And it's a 3, the 4, the 5 seconds over. Okay, so the setup is much quicker. It has become much quicker. The game is really there have been some changes, radical changes in the refereeing, which is debatable. But I mean, we're not going to go into that now because.
Do we have any star players we should be watching in South Africa? Are there people who you think are world class?
Last year, I sort of assisted the Italian team of girls from Rome that came to do the Gauteng Invitational, which they won. And at the end of that tournament, they identified one girl that they wanted to bring back to Italy to play, professionally, because Italian water polo is professional at first and second division level. And unfortunately, the girl did not want to leave her coaching and teaching job. I think it's in Grahamstown. She stays in Grahamstown now. And she was the best player. Wow. I'm not going to name, but she was not part of the national side that went to Singapore, because I'm not sure whether she outright refused to, because there has obviously been a refusal of some players to actually go, following obviously whatever happened, lately with water polo. So some people, out of principle, did not want to join the team. So also Swimming South Africa found itself at a loss in having to find, only certain players, only certain federations, or only certain provinces did present themselves at the trials, which made it easier for them to obviously be picked. But again, it's sad when you see a father spending 70 grand to have his son in a tracksuit with a talk bag that says South Africa with a number, and it's probably a culmination of a career, of an aspiration that he's had all his life, and now he sees it transported onto his kid. And that kid really goes out there and gets embarrassed because he's out of his depth, playing against Italy, against Serbia, against Australia, against the USA. I mean, they got drilled everywhere. And it's but they represented South Africa. He's a Springbok, whatever that means in water polo. He's a Protea or whatever. He's a national player.
But with our schools being as good as they are, we should do better everywhere else as well.
Yes, we should.
So it's clearly at the level of not talent, but at the level of coaching and of administration.
The talent is there, and the first thing that I said is that we must stop to think that water polo is a summer sport. Everywhere else in the world, you play 12 months of the year. You've got to. Your elite, call them elite players, must play 12 months of the year. You need to make sure that your pools, your covered pools are used for that purpose. And we are getting more and more indoor pools, which is great because the sport needs to have a 12 months life, especially at club level. School level, I can understand, you play your 6 months of the year because those guys play, different sports in winter. But once you recognize talent, that talent should be nurtured 12 months of the year.
Well, I hope they are all listening, and I'm just glad that there's someone like you who cares enough about this that'll get involved.
Well, I hope, because I've said to James, I hope that you talk to these guys, because obviously after the court case, which they won against Swimming South Africa, who went against them and found themselves again embarrassed by losing, have a discussion with them, because they have the pulse of what water polo really is, as far as clubs are concerned, and as far as really the wishes of the players. And I think they represent the greater majority, whilst the Swimming South Africa is holding on to the bureaucratic structure, and that bureaucratic structure, I think, needs to have a complete remodel.
I love it. Very nice to see you and spend some time with you again.
Nice to see you.
And we will hopefully get to carry on this conversation at some point. I'm sure it's something that a lot of people want to know the answer to.
I think it's a very niche sport.
But South Africans we love two things. We love sport and we like winning. And if this was done better, maybe we would win, and then we'd also be thrilled to watch it and pay attention.
I can tell you right now, and that's my last thought, as far as girls are concerned, we have the true potential to become in 3, 4, 5 years, maybe not in Los Angeles, but certainly in Brisbane, to be the first state in the world.
Wow.
At girls' level. What you say, you normally put them on the block.
Sure.
Whatever you put on the block. So I never know, I work for Supersport for so long. I know. I work for Supersport for so long. You can't say any bad words
you can
or any
speak
swear
honestly
words.
here. Yeah.
Whilst the boys probably, it's a much tougher competition from the stalwarts of countries in the world. But girls, and it's a true testament and an appreciation to a friend of mine, Stanislav Gospodinov. I want to say that because he was the one who started the properly training the girls and coaching the girls, and he did a phenomenal job. And I think because he's not South African, has been overlooked, whilst he should actually be right there on top, leading these girls. And I've said that not because he's my friend, not because I think he's a great coach, but I think because he deserves it. Yeah. Because the girls deserve somebody good to actually.
It's amazing how politics finds its way into ruining everything.
Everywhere.
Just ruins everything.
But I love you.
I love you too, and thank you very much, Steph, for coming to spend some time with us this morning. We will be back on Friday morning, 6 a.m. Make sure you don't miss it. Like, subscribe, comment, blah, 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 all the stuff you usually do. We'll see you on Friday.